So for those of you who don't know, I'm the MD of Ninti One Limited, an organisation that builds opportunities for people living in remote Australia through research, innovation and community development. And this is the topic of today's conversation. So in a moment it's going to be my pleasure to introduce two very influential Australians who I greatly admire, Dr Tom Calma AO and Kerry O'Brien. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Rod. So, Tom.
Kerry. Tom and Kerry show.
The Tom and Kerry. It's got a certain familiar ring to it. Tom, I was just going back through some of this material. I couldn't help. I mean, we are really talking in the shadow of a great state memorial service just a couple of days ago for Gough Whitlam, and of course it took us all back, those of us who are old enough, took us all back to that great symbolic moment where Gough poured the earth of Wattie Creek through Vincent Lingiari's hands as essentially he began the process of land rights legislation in Australia. And I've been doing stories on and off, particularly about remote Indigenous communities and their struggles and their progress and their backward steps and so on. And then I look at a statistic like this, that in remote areas 82% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders aged between 15 and 24 are not engaged in either education or work, compared to 22% of other 15 to 20-year-olds in the same areas. And I ask what progress really has been made.
Yeah, well, thanks, Kerry. I think it's a very, very important question. And those statistics are very, very worrying. And when you think that they relate to probably 130,000 people who live in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in remote areas, we've got to really question why that's still the case. And there's no single answer, there's no single solution. And I think it's a challenge for governments, it's a challenge for the community. And that's why what we do at Ninti One and through the CRC, it's what drives us, looking at trying to address the economic empowerment, the economic situation, the education system, to try and bring some real evidence-based research into the public policy debate. And I think that's what's been missing too often in Australia is that a lot of policy in relation to Indigenous affairs has been ideologically driven and not based on what the community says. And I guess as we go through, we'll start to explore some of those projects that we're involved with that will give some guidance to government should they be interested in listening. And it's not only the bureaucrats; it's equally and maybe more problematic at the politicians' level, because we know that they are driven by many things, and looking at the whole economics of Australia is an issue. But what we don't want to fall into the trap of is to suggest that one size fits all, that any policy application for an urban environment or a regional environment can just be transposed onto a remote community and to remote Australia. So there's some of the major, I think, contributors.
Question? Yes.
Kerry, I wonder what advice you would give to an organisation like Ninti One about addressing inequality and the important thing you mentioned about voice.
Look, I think probably the biggest single gain, positive development that could be made would be to somehow just keep grinding away through every public means you could find to just push the whole idea of bipartisanship, because that's fundamental to it. If there's one recurring thing that came from Tom today, it was how often you are stymied by changes in government policy. And I would say, hoping that every Australian has an investment in seeing a true reconciliation and a lifting up of Indigenous inequality, that that absolutely fundamental to it has to be bipartisanship. And you can't have perfect bipartisanship, and you don't want it, because you want in a vibrant democracy the right to be able to question existing policy, to question the status quo. And no, it's not simple, of course it's not. But I always try to look for the common sense in things, and that, to me, is at the heart of it.